September 7th, 1940, 7:15 p.m., London. The city's streets are slick with rain, gas lamps flickering along the fog pavements. From the River Thames, a shadow sweeps across the skyline. The drone of hundreds of aircraft, each bearing death from above. The Luftwaffe, under the command of Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring, has begun its relentless assault. You can almost feel the tension in the air, heavy and electric, as the first incendiary bombs carve fiery trails through the night sky. In East London, civilians huddle in dimly lit basements. Families clutch each other, listening to the whistling scream of bombs passing overhead. The roar of engines mixes with the sudden, shattering explosions that tear through homes and businesses. Windows shatter in a symphony of chaos. Brick and timber crumble. Smoke billows into the mist, turning familiar streets into an alien landscape of fire and ash. RAF Fighter Command is already mobilizing. Squadron leader Douglas Bader, flying in his Supermarine Spitfire MKI, scans the sky above Croydon. His eyes narrow against the darkness, tracking Heinkel He-111 bombers weaving through the clouds. Anti-aircraft batteries open fire below, searchlights stabbing the night in frantic, oscillating beams, illuminating trails of tracers and distant silhouettes of enemy bombers. The first salvo of flak explodes nearby, shaking Bader's cockpit and rattling his nerves, but he pushes forward. There is no time for hesitation. London's docks along the Thames are aflame. The Luftwaffe has targeted warehouses storing vital fuel and munitions. Firefighters, drenched and exhausted, form human chains to carry buckets, while pumps struggle against torrents of flame. You hear the cries of men and women, both from fear and the effort of saving what they can. A bomb detonates nearby, sending waves of heat through the fog. Debris rains down like deadly hail. Meanwhile, in the city, the clergy ring bells in warning. Underground stations become impromptu shelters for tens of thousands. Children clutch dolls singed at the edges. Mothers try to soothe crying infants as the ground trembles. You can almost smell the burning timber, asphalt, and oil mixed with the acrid tang of fear. Time slows and accelerates simultaneously. Minutes stretch into eternities as sirens wail, engines roar, and the distant boom of bombs punctuates the night. Yet the Luftwaffe pilots are not immune to terror. Many fly without full night vision instruments, relying on city lights to guide their strikes. Some navigate through blacked-out streets, illuminated only by the fires they themselves ignite. Göring's orders are clear: crush London's morale. Yet, within the chaos, a small but vital counterforce begins to stir. Radar operators at chain home stations scan the night, tracking bomber formations before they even reach the city. This invisible shield, unseen by both bomber crews and terrified civilians, begins the quiet work of defense. Then, at the edge of the smoke-filled horizon, a squadron of Spitfires bursts into view. The whine of their engines cuts above the roar of destruction. Bader leads the charge, diving into enemy formations with precision. Bombs drop harmlessly behind, clipped by fighters or detonating too late. The Luftwaffe begins to feel, for the first time, the sting of resistance. But the night is far from over. The fires rage on. London is burning. And in the distance, the unmistakable silhouette of another wave of bombers rises from the darkness, heading straight for the city. September 7th, 1940. 8:30 p.m., London's East End. The streets are now rivers of fire, reflecting in the shattered glass of gutted shop fronts. Smoke curls toward the sky like black fingers reaching for the stars, carrying the acrid scent of charred timber and burning coal. Fires spread uncontrollably, licking at rows of tightly packed terraced homes. The Luftwaffe's Heinkel He-111s and Dornier Do-17s release another devastating payload, each bomb striking with calculated precision. The ground shakes with every detonation, a relentless rhythm of terror that pulses through the city's veins. Civilians stumble through smoke-choked streets, clutching whatever belongings they can carry. A mother drags her child behind her, both coughing, eyes streaming from the heat and grit in the air. Nearby, an elderly man struggles to salvage a family portrait from the ruins of his home, unaware that another bomb is seconds from obliterating the street. The screams, the pounding of boots, the roar of engines. It is a symphony of chaos, yet threaded with the determination of survival. RAF Squadron Scramble. Squadron leader Bader coordinates with ground control, the chain home radar stations feeding crucial vectors through crackling wireless channels. Every second counts. A formation of Messerschmitt Bf 109 escorts tries to intercept the Spitfires, but the nimble British fighters weave through the night, guns blazing, turning bomber crews into desperate marks in a deadly game. Tracers slice the sky, illuminating the smoke in ghostly lines as explosions erupt below, setting the docks and warehouses aflame. At Victoria Docks, firefighters risk their lives to douse the inferno, pumping water from the Thames in futile torrents. Men collapse from exhaustion, coughing up smoke, sweat, and despair. The ground trembles beneath their feet as one bomb detonates mere meters away, hurling splinters of wood and metal like lethal shrapnel. Yet, amidst the devastation, human courage persists. Ordinary citizens form human chains, pulling survivors from burning buildings, dragging the injured to relative safety. Children huddle silently, eyes wide with horror, while neighbors shield them with trembling arms. Meanwhile, above, Luftwaffe crews grow frustrated. The city's defenses are more formidable than anticipated. Flak bursts around their formations, shrapnel tearing into wings and fuselage. Bader's Spitfires dive from the clouds, raking bombers with precise bursts of 20mm cannon fire. The German formations stagger, faltering under pressure. For the first time, fear touches their ranks. Many pilots have never faced resistance like this, where technology, strategy, and sheer grit collide to form an invisible wall they cannot simply fly through. And yet, the destruction continues. Another wave of bombers emerges from the darkness, larger than before. Sirens wail anew, echoing against the buildings, signaling civilians to the shelters. Underground stations become sanctuaries, the din of explosions above muffled but never silenced. In the labyrinthine tunnels, people cling together, trembling in the dim light of lanterns. London's heart beats beneath the streets, alive with fear, courage, and defiance. Then, as the fires illuminate the smoke-choked sky, a new sound slices through the chaos. The unmistakable howl of Spitfire engines diving into bomber formations with deadly precision. The battle above has only begun. September 7th, 1940, 10 p.m., East London. The city is now unrecognizable, a labyrinth of burning timber, twisted metal, and smoldering rubble. Streets once familiar are cloaked in darkness and smoke, lit intermittently by the orange flare of incendiary bombs. The Luftwaffe's relentless assault presses on, each bomber a steel predator in the night, guided by blackouts and navigational beacons of their own making. You can feel the heat even from a distance. The air is thick with ash, scenting every breath with fear and fire. On the ground, firefighters race toward another outbreak along the docks. Men in heavy coats, helmets skewed from impact, pass buckets and operate pumps in frantic rhythm, drenched in water and sweat. One explosion sends a wall of flame toward a nearby warehouse. A young constable dives to shield trapped civilians, pulling them to safety seconds before collapse. Children scream, dogs bark, and the city itself seems to moan under the weight of destruction. Every corner holds a new threat. Every alley a potential grave. Above, RAF squadrons remain relentless. Squadron leader Bader weaves through the smoky sky in a Spitfire, wings glinting in the orange glow. Below him, He-111s release their bombs with terrifying accuracy, yet flak bursts tear through their formations. One bomber spirals uncontrollably, flames licking the fuselage, trailing debris like a meteor crashing to Earth. Bader dives after it, firing until it disappears into the night, before climbing back to intercept another. The dance of death continues, precision, chaos, and courage all interwoven above London. In the city, civilians adapt quickly. Underground stations echo with the rhythm of life under siege. Families huddle on wooden benches. Some play games to distract children from the screams and explosions above. Messengers and wardens navigate corridors, delivering updates from the surface, urging people to move, to stay calm, to survive. Londoners have learned the language of survival. The scent of smoke, the rumble of distant bombs, the crackle of fires signaling where to run, where to hide, and when to trust in the courage of strangers. Yet, the Luftwaffe underestimates the quiet strength of the British people. Chain-home radar operators provide early warning, guiding fighters before the bombers reach their targets. Spitfires strike swiftly, breaking formations and causing hesitation in bomber crews who believed victory was assured. From the chaos, patterns emerge. The Germans discover that their reign of terror is not unchallenged. Every wave of bombs is met with resilience, both in the air and on the ground. Then, as midnight approaches, the city braces for another strike. Smoke clouds the skyline, fires rage across the East End, and the distant sound of sirens mixes with the thrum of bomber engines. London holds its breath, knowing that the next moments could mean survival or annihilation. September 8th, 1940. 12:15 a.m. East London is barely recognizable under a sky ablaze with fire. Streets are rivers of molten debris. Rooftops collapse under the weight of incendiaries. The air vibrates with the reverberation of explosions, punctuated by the sharp whistle of falling bombs. Londoners move like shadows in the chaos, carrying what they can, shielding children, dragging the injured from streets turned furnace. Every step is perilous, every decision a question of life or death. In the docks, men form human chains, hauling buckets and carrying the wounded to makeshift triage stations. The fire pumps hiss and sputter, barely keeping up with the advancing flames. One firefighter, singed and coughing, stumbles into the river to refill a hose, only to narrowly avoid the collapse of a nearby warehouse. Around him, colleagues fight back flames with grit and desperation, their faces streaked with soot, illuminated by the intermittent glare of distant infernos. Courage pulses through the city like electricity, raw, unfiltered, and relentless. Above, RAF pilots continue their deadly ballet. Squadron leader Bader and his squadron dive repeatedly into bomber formations, engines screaming, guns blazing. Tracer fire rips through the night, punctuating the darkness with fleeting lines of deadly precision. One Dornier Du-17 falters, hit squarely by Spitfire cannons, spiraling into the flames below. Bader pulls up sharply, narrowly avoiding collision with another falling bomber. Each kill brings relief, but the destruction below reminds them the fight is far from over. Meanwhile, civilians in the underground stations try to sleep, though the explosions above make rest impossible. Families huddle together, exchanging whispered reassurances. Children clutch toys scorched at the edges. Mothers wrap blankets tightly around trembling shoulders. Elderly Londoners recount past hardships, sharing stories to keep morale alive. In these tunnels, a different battle rages. The struggle to maintain humanity, to preserve calm, to hold on to hope when the world above is aflame. Radar operators at chain home stations maintain their silent vigil. Each blip on the screen represents a bomber heading for destruction or death. They calculate, relay, and guide fighters into optimal positions. Their work is invisible to the world above, yet vital. Without them, the Luftwaffe would reign unchallenged, and London's story could have ended in flames. Every successful interception is a silent victory, unnoticed by the chaos of the night, but critical to survival. Then, as dawn threatens the horizon, the Luftwaffe unleashes a concentrated strike aimed at docks and industrial zones, the nerve center of London's defense. Fires flare higher, alarms scream louder, and civilians brace for what seems like the final wave. Yet, this night of terror will test more than walls and fire pumps. It will test the unyielding spirit of a city determined not to break. September 8th, 1940. 4:30 a.m. The first pale light of dawn seeps through London's smoke-choked sky, revealing the full scale of the night's devastation. Streets are littered with rubble, charred vehicles, and broken timber. Fires still burn in pockets across the East End, sending plumes of black smoke into the heavy morning fog. Amidst the wreckage, the city begins to stir. Londoners, weary yet unbroken, emerge from shelters, blinking against the gray light, surveying the horrors left behind. Civilians, driven by necessity and defiance, form impromptu brigades. Neighbors help clear debris, drag smoldering furniture from homes, and set up temporary water lines to prevent further fire outbreaks. Children, now witnesses to carnage beyond their years, follow adults with silent obedience, absorbing lessons of resilience in real time. Women carry buckets, men wield axes, and everywhere, the human instinct to protect, survive, and rebuild pulses like a heartbeat through the ruined streets. Above, RAF pilots remain vigilant. Bader's squadron, battered from the night's engagement, lines up for another sortie. Spitfires take to the air, their engines slicing through the smoky morning, patrolling the skies for remaining Luftwaffe stragglers. One bomber, damaged but stubborn, approaches the docks. Bader dives without hesitation, guns blazing. The Dornier's wings flare as tracers rip through the fuselage, forcing it down over the Thames. Victory is small but palpable, a reminder that tenacity and precision can defy even overwhelming firepower. In the radar stations, operators maintain focus despite exhaustion. Every dot on the screen represents potential destruction. Every early warning allows fighters to intercept, saving countless lives. The chain home system proves its worth. Radar-guided defense transforms what could have been chaos into a coordinated counterassault. Officers note the effectiveness of fighter vectoring tactics, silently acknowledging that London's survival depends as much on unseen technology as on human courage. Yet the Luftwaffe is undeterred. Göring's orders are clear. Relentless pressure, target civilian morale, crush the city's spirit. Another wave of bombers approaches, engines droning ominously, cutting through the early morning haze. London braces once more, citizens rushing to shelters, firefighters readying hoses, and RAF pilots climbing into the sky. The battle is not yet won, and the city was about to face its most critical test. Then, as the first bombs fall, a surprise awaits both the attackers and defenders, a turning point that will redefine the course of the Blitz. September 8, 1940. 5:15 a.m. London's East End is tense with anticipation. Smoke still curls from the remnants of the previous night's infernos, and the acrid stench of burning timber lingers in the damp morning air. Civilians cling to the edges of shelters, hearts hammering in sync with distant explosions. Above, the first wave of Luftwaffe bombers appears, larger and more coordinated than ever, their silhouettes stark against the pale gray dawn. Every eye in the city turns skyward. RAF squadrons, guided by chain home radar, are already airborne. Spitfires climb through low clouds, engines screaming, wings glinting with the first rays of sunlight. Squadron leader Bader coordinates intercepts with unmatched precision. The Luftwaffe's bombers press forward, unaware that British fighters are already in position. The skies above London become a theater of calculated chaos. Planes weaving through anti-aircraft fire, tracers slicing the fog, and bombs falling into the Thames or exploding harmlessly in open fields, their intended targets missed by mere meters. On the ground, civilians watch the aerial ballet with awe and terror. Children peek from shelters, their wide eyes reflecting flames and tracer fire. Mothers clutch them, whispering reassurances that feel almost hollow against the roar of engines and the deep boom of distant explosions. Firefighters, exhausted from hours of battle, push forward, their hoses pumping water onto new blazes. Men in factories and docks lift debris, working alongside women and teenagers in a desperate bid to save infrastructure critical to the war effort. Then a critical misstep unfolds. German bomber formations, overconfident after previous nights of apparent dominance, scatter under relentless Spitfire attacks. Some pilots, disoriented and low on fuel, are forced to abort. Others miscalculate approach angles, releasing bombs prematurely into non-essential zones. Anti-aircraft gunners, now coordinated with fighter movements, strike with deadly accuracy. The Luftwaffe experiences its first real setback, their psychological edge against London eroding as resistance proves unexpectedly formidable. In the midst of this chaos, a small but significant event turns the tide of the day. Bader's squadron intercepts a key formation targeting the docks. A concentrated volley of fire sends 3 bombers spiraling into the Thames. The impact triggers a chain reaction. Remaining bombers hesitate, break formation, and fall prey to both Spitfires and the city's flak batteries. The Luftwaffe's coordinated assault falters. Confusion replaces the fear they sought to instill. London's human wall, pilots, radar operators, firefighters, and civilians, has held. Yet the city remains under threat. Fires still burn, buildings lie in ruins, and another wave looms on the horizon. London has survived the night, but the war for its soul is far from over. September 8, 1940. 7 a.m. The East End is battered but unbowed. Smoke rises from the ruins of factories, homes, and warehouses, twisting in the cold morning light. Streets are littered with debris, overturned carts, and broken glass that glints like scattered stars. The city smells of soot, oil, and charred timber, yet the hum of human activity has returned. Londoners emerge from shelters with a quiet determination. moving through destruction with unwavering purpose. Fire brigades push deeper into pockets of fire, working alongside civilians who have become soldiers of survival. Mothers carry children, men haul timber and bricks, and young boys run errands through the smoke-filled streets. A woman kneels beside a collapsed wall, digging out a neighbor trapped beneath rubble. She coughs, eyes stinging from ash, but does not stop. Around her, ordinary people perform extraordinary acts of courage, their resilience a silent defiance against the Luftwaffe's terror. Above, RAF Spitfires patrol relentlessly. Bader leads another sortie, scanning the skies for stragglers. Broken Heinkels and Dorniers litter the horizon, some smoldering, some sinking into the Thames. The pilots maneuver with deadly precision, aware that each bomber they intercept saves lives below. Anti-aircraft batteries continue to fire in measured bursts, tracer rounds slicing the morning haze, a deadly web that leaves Luftwaffe crews vulnerable and demoralized. Radar operators monitor each movement, their screens blinking with critical information. Every dot represents potential destruction, every interception a small triumph. The effectiveness of the chain home system becomes undeniable. For the first time, the Luftwaffe realizes that London cannot be broken through brute force alone. Strategy, technology, and human determination have created a wall no bomb can penetrate. Yet even in victory, the city feels the weight of loss. Buildings lie in ashes, lives have been shattered, and the psychological toll is heavy. Londoners understand that the Blitz is far from over. The Luftwaffe will return, night after night, testing every ounce of courage. And as another formation of bombers appears on the horizon, a tense silence falls over the city. The next hours will reveal whether London's resilience can withstand the full fury of the German war machine, or whether the city will finally succumb to fire. September 8th, 1940. 9 a.m. London's skyline is a patchwork of smoke, fire, and shattered buildings. Yet amidst the devastation, life persists. Streets once reduced to chaos now teem with movement. Civilians clear debris, firefighters douse lingering flames, and dockworkers salvage what supplies they can. The city pulses with a stubborn heartbeat, a rhythm of survival that no bomb, no machine, no calculated terror can silence. RAF Spitfires soar overhead, engines screaming through the morning haze. Squadron leader Bader leads his pilots in a final interception as the last Luftwaffe bombers retreat, damaged and demoralized. Anti-aircraft batteries continue to fire, tracers cutting the sky with deadly precision, reminding the enemy that London's defense is both relentless and unyielding. Radar operators relay each movement, orchestrating a coordinated defense that has turned the tide. What was meant to crush morale now highlights the city's indomitable strength. Underground shelters empty as families emerge, blinking in the smoke-filled light. Mothers hug their children tightly. Men offer hands to lift the injured, and strangers share water and blankets. The human spirit, tested beyond measure, proves more formidable than steel or explosives. The Blitz, intended to break London, has instead revealed the city's unbreakable will. Every act of bravery, every life saved, every Spitfire in the sky is a testament to resilience. By midday, the Luftwaffe has withdrawn, their confidence shattered. Goring realizes that London cannot be cowed with terror alone. Strategic miscalculations, the unexpected strength of radar-guided defenses, and the sheer courage of citizens and pilots alike have transformed the battle into a reversal of fortunes. What began as the most feared bombing campaign in history ends with a stark, undeniable truth. London survives stronger and more determined than ever. From the ashes of destruction, a city rises. Ordinary people, extraordinary courage. Machines fall, bombs fail, yet the human spirit endures. And as London begins the long process of rebuilding, the lessons of that night, of fire, fear, and resilience, become legend, whispered in every corner, remembered in every heartbeat.